Good evening all from G8GKQ in Salisbury, UK. Let's wind the power up a bit. Still got some audio leaking out somewhere. Let's just sort that out. Turn that volume control down. So Jim G7NTG, you'll be on first, just to warn you. And I now have Richard on the end of the list, so I've got 5 so far. I'll just give us a couple of minutes till 8 o'clock, or 1 minute to be precise. Reasonable amount of light at the moment because I sit in front of the window. That's why it gets darker during the net. Mike, Quarter FEC is fine, yes, but the picture definition goes down and down and down as you do it. Similarly, we could go to down to 125 kilosymbols and have a similar effect. Or less than 125 in fact, but I chose 2/3. Well, I know we started at a half. That was pretty ropey on H264 at 333, so that's why we went up to 2/3, and now with 265 it looks pretty good. Okay, right, formally opening the net. I have G7NTG, Martin G4FKK, then Mike G0MJW, John G7JTT, Richard GI4DOH, Colin G4KLB, and I wonder if there's a Noel GTZ lurking there somewhere. I wonder if he's got anything working tonight. And good evening to the watchers. I see G6GZH David, Bernie, G4HJW, and looking on the stream, one of course on the rec line is Ashley JDPH. Good to see you, Ashley. Right, Colin's been eating too much, has he? Right. Parish notices, and Tim and Don, good evening to you both. Cat 21 planning for 9 days time. We'll start at 10:30 in the morning, finish at 4 on the Saturday. No set program, but there will be a few announcements at midday, so just come along on the day please. Remember to bring a face mask please, and test and fix it. Let me know what you want to test and fix so that I don't leave the key piece of test gear at home. I'll try and bring as much as I can with me, but please let me know what you want to do, and there's a thread on the forum, a topic on the forum for that. Let's wind the power up another dB, because as the PA heats it just goes down and down. Okay, I'll get to what I've been doing this week on my over. But let's put it round to Jim, who we haven't seen for a couple of weeks now. G7NTG and the BATC Net, G8GKQ.
Just make sure my level's right, and I've got audio. Just make sure my level's right, and I've got audio. I have, let's turn that off. Right, good evening everybody, thanks Dave. Yes, I haven't been on for a little while. I've had other things crop up. Last week I had a Zoom meeting with the Roman Roads Research Association, which I'm a member of, and that's also very interesting. But that only happens once every 3 months, so it tends to take precedence. I've been playing about with power amplifiers again, as I normally do. Can't stop me, can you? And I've got a few here. I'm just going to swing the camera around so you can see them. Just try and do it as smoothly as possible. Right, okay. It's going to keep moving. That's right, that's it. Right, the one on the left here is pretty much the standard one I've been building. But I did have one in particular that wasn't very linear. In fact, it was appallingly non-linear at low levels. And the guy wanted to use it, a Frenchman, wanted to use it on wideband and narrowband on the satellite. So I got him to send it back to me. And what I've done, it's the standard... let me... Totally prepared here, as you can see. It's one of these standard boards with the 3 transistors on. You're all fairly familiar with them now, I think. And so I've applied fixed bias and biased each transistor at 1.3 amps. It now becomes incredibly linear, but less efficient. And I've built that into this case. And it's much bigger. As you can probably see, it's huge. It's a colossal heatsink compared to the little one. It's a foot square and about 3 inches deep, 2 3/4 inch, 3 inches deep, and it's phenomenal. No more power, same amount of power output, but very linear. And because it's got 2 high-speed fans on it, on a big heatsink, it will now do continuous power. In fact, this one will do 400 watts at 2320 for moon bounce, and it will do 300 watts of that continuously. So I needed a new power supply to actually give the power. So I Hewlett Packard 750 watt 12 volt server power supplies, and I've modified those, turned the voltage down a bit and seriesed them, which is a bit of a game, and that gives me 32 volts 62.5 amps with this power supply. It just looks the same as the other one, it's just much heavier. I've put that on the group that I run, that's DATVPA at groups.io. There's all the files for the making of this, converting to fixed bias, and the build of the power supply if anybody's interested. So yes, I've been swing the camera around gently now, try and do some reasonable panning. But yeah, I've been quite busy with that. So the guy in France, I sent him back his modified amplifier, very pleased, highly delighted with it. But I've told him he needn't pay me until he's completely satisfied that it's going to work all right. Otherwise I'll just have it back. The only downside with the fixed bias is that they have more gain, a lot more gain, and they tend to take off. So also on DATVPA at groups.io you'll find information on how to stop it taking off. Anyway, enough of that. and I think I'll put it round to Martin. So G4FKK from G7NTG with the group.
Shall I bump it up a bit as well?
Okay, very good, Jim.
G7NTG. That's 0. G4FKK. Returning evening, chaps. I'm still juggling multi mouses to get this going tonight. I think some of you know I bought a new PC at last, which has got an NVIDIA card in it. So you may or may not notice that the picture is more resolution and on H.265. You might not notice the extra resolution because my cameras seem to refuse to focus on me, but then I don't blame them for that, really. I've had all sorts of interesting problems with the I'll swap that one as well, with the new PC in terms of setting up really basic software like Minitune. I've got Minitune going now, but not in the graph mode, only VLC, because some site that you have to get some driver from won't let me download it. Even the Arduino IDE has got a driver missing that, despite a complete new install from scratch, as it were, the latest software on new PC, which hadn't had Arduino on it before, it's still got a missing driver. It's infuriating. And it's updated itself about 4 times, which usually ruins what you spent the last day setting up. Anyone would think I was complaining, but there you go. I'm not really. It's very much faster. Out of interest, let's have a look. Not that one, that one. At the moment, it's running at 7% CPU usage, and I'm running Winter Hill, Minitune, and all sorts of other stuff on it. That would have got it up to about 90% on the old computer. As a consequence, not much construction work's been done. I still haven't built the 10-meter high power amplifier yet, Mike. So apologies for that. And I still haven't finished drilling the box to put the converter in. So I don't know if it's going to take off yet when I put it in the box. Sounds like Jim's the expert for that. Those amplifiers, by the way, Jim, look excellent, and I'm assuming that big heatsink is the same one as you kindly sent me some weeks ago now. It's still not been unpacked. It's still in its box over there because I've been too busy doing other things. Yes, I'll have to have a look at your. I think I'm a member of your group's IO, so I'll have to have a look at that and see how. So I'm just reading Steve's comment there. Should have bought an Apple. Thank you very much. I'm having enough trouble with this. I struggle with the Arduino sometimes, let alone an Apple. Blimey. Yeah, I'll have to look up and see how you've managed to do the fixed bias. I'm still using I'm only using a 2-device one, which gives more than enough power for what I need. So I probably won't be doing anything with the three transistor one for a while yet. And the 62.5 amp 32 volt power supply, well, I thought that looked very small, Jim. It looked excellent. So I shall investigate that as well. And I did notice, I think I noticed something on the bottom shelf of your trolley there, Jim. It looked like a stylophone you've got there. They're really handy, aren't they? All sorts of useful things you can use those for over the years, I've found. Anyway, that's probably enough waffle from me. I believe it goes round to Mike next. FKK MJW. Yes, so round to you, Mike. And I caught the end, by the way, Colin, of your show on SQ earlier on. but only the end of it. So I was having dinner. Imagine Mike's surprise. So with that, I shall put it round to Mike and see what turns up on the net. G0MJW G4FKK.
Okay, hopefully this will work. Do tell me if it doesn't. I'm trying an experiment, just for fun, but I'm running 1/4 FEC, so the resolution and the audio quality will be poor. But I say they're probably still better than H.264, a lot better than MPEG 2. Anyway, before it all collapses and fails, a few comments. Noel, if you're listening, and if you're not, why not? The battery in the Land Rover needs replacing, and I was wondering if you've got any advice on where to get. I can see the one that you've put in there, and I'm not sure that's the one that's supposed to be in there. So I was just going to verify that was the right one to use, in which case I'll get another one of those. That will only mean something to Noel. As for the Cat 21, it says 10 o'clock opening time. Now, things like the Newbury Rally and Michael, 10 o'clock opening time means everyone turns up at 8 a.m. I assume you're not going to be doing that, so I'd like to know when I need to sort of rock up there and whether there's any pre-meeting or whether that is actually everyone will be queuing outside at 10. Noted bring face mask, always a good idea. Probably bring some of that sort of stuff that you wash your hands with as well. To sanitize your hands. We're going to need some sort of frequency reference stroke spectrum analyzer if we're going to test these bullseyes. So that was the other thing. And here's my box of bits, which this will probably kill the camera. Cat 21. The little bits that go on the end of the box finally turned up, i.e. button caps. So it now has buttons on it. Click. Satisfying clicking noises. So that will be perhaps useful. Right, okay, audio not quite as good. Well, that's okay. It's probably mostly rubbish anyway. So I just didn't know what to bring really. I've got some of these adapters that people were asking for, and I've got some PCBs for the not particularly useful 10-meter converter. I can bring a few other things as well if required. Perhaps some of these if Colin will let me, because I've got some surplus boards that I don't need. I'm only going to. This is the thing you build once and you use once, and then you don't need it anymore. Jim, it was really good to see that new amplifier and heatsink, etc. I need to get a heatsink box, and I'm wondering if anyone knows where to get heatsink boxes, like the Benos amplifiers used to be built into. So I don't mean a heatsink in a box, I mean a heatsink that is a box. I've not seen them anywhere for a long time, and I wondered if you could buy them. I had a look on AliExpress, and I can see several things that are available built into them, but no one actually seems to be selling them, so maybe I'm just not looking in the right place. Those HP PSUs, I've got a couple in the box behind me, are they're very good. LF frequency reference, 25 megahertz, Dave. The problem with them is they're grounded, so you have to isolate the other, at least two of the supplies, from ground, and that means putting in insulators and things. Yeah, it's a good way to get high current at 32 volts. The Dutch power supplies, or the ones that are available from a Dutch amateur, are very, very good. They are 1.2 kilowatts, but they only go up to just over 28 volts. Now, it might be possible to get them higher, but I haven't experimented very much with that. I got them up to 28 volts, which is what I wanted, and I think Colin did the same, but we couldn't really get it much higher without them not being stable. They're an option if you only want to run low power, but not if you want to run much.
Not a 10 megahertz RB. No, the Bullseye has a 25 megs reference in it, Dave. So we need to compare the 25 megahertz reference in the Bullseye with the GPS locked standard. And we could do that on a spectrum analyzer, or possibly with Lysigius figures, although it's a little bit weak in terms of signal strength, and get it tuned onto frequency. That's the idea anyway. So spectrum analyzer locked would be good enough. In fact, probably pointing the thing at QO100 if someone's got a dish and tuning into the beacon frequency might be good enough. But it's a matter of just how to get those, because they can be quite a few kilohertz off, and so you have to tune them. And then they remember that level if you save the value, and you don't have to do it again. Where'd I got to? Yeah, and Martin, your image is much, much better than it was before. So I think it's been a big improvement, and I know it's frustrating with a new PC. I was lucky. I bought a new PC, and I thought I'll buy it last November before Christmas, because that's usually the sort of time when the prices are lowest. Not near Christmas, but a little bit before, start of November. And I bought a graphics card. And when I looked a few months later, the graphics card had gone up to 500 quid, and it only cost me £200. So prices have shot up for graphics cards. The other bits hadn't really gone up, but there was a load of stuff with the Bitcoin mining or whatever it is. And which Dutch? I'm going to have to tell you. I'm amazed, Dave, you haven't bought 10 of them already. You're normally well up on these things. Right, the next thing then is the bench camera, just to show you what I've been doing, and it's got nothing to do with this. But this is my portable laptop, and the keyboard's playing up. A few of the keys aren't working, and it's not much use with a few of the keys not working. So I managed to get a new one on eBay, and I've now got the difficult job of swapping them over. So that's what I'm planning to do over the weekend. It might take some time, we will see. But that laptop has been incredibly useful, even though it's only an i5. It works okay. Right, the model. Dear me, insistent, isn't he? Let me get a picture of it, then you can see what I'm talking about. These ones, ignore the power poles, that's my modification. 27 point something volts power supply from a Dutch amateur, and they're usually called Aztec. Right, sorry, that was too long and over. So who's next? It's John, isn't it? G7JTT. So around to you, John. G7JTT, G0MJW.
I find which camera. But I wasn't expecting this. G0MJW with the group GI4DOH. Where am I? Go to that one and turn my volume down. I think that's me. Okay now. Yeah, caught by surprise there. I was actually just checking the power level because I'd sort of tested the setup on a different frequency just coming up to the start, so it wasn't I hadn't actually checked that I had got everything set up again right, but it seemed to be okay. Good evening all, and I'm definitely looking at this camera. I had planned to get a second camera set up for tonight, so you'll not be looking at the curtains behind me with daylight. I think, yep, still daylight out there, but couldn't find the tripod, which I tidied away when elder daughter was over a couple of weekends ago. And there are some when I did, other things went wrong, so wasn't quite set up the way I wanted to be. So yeah, Jim on the amplifier, it's good to see you again. It has been a while. I'm still working on this one. And indeed, heat sinks are the issue. I am waiting for a heat sink at the moment, which will be a bigger version of this one. And I don't want to drill holes in any boxes or anything until I actually get all the hardware in place, just in case anything gets cancelled and I have to get something else. So I don't have a background in this sort of thing, so I don't have a collection of bits that I can fall back on. The one thing that I think it did mention last week I was working on was a one-size-fits-all push-to-talk board, because I found since getting into the ATV, with all these different things that PTT can be a range of voltages on equipment that's fed with a range of voltages, and even the W1 GHZ transverters, I think, have a tendency to need a different voltage for transmit as they do on receive. So it's a one-size-fits-all. It does hold a buck converter if necessary. It doesn't have to be used. If I don't want to, you can just link straight past it. There's room for a TO220 regulator if you want to regulate down from that. It will switch TX or RX or both, depending on what you want. You don't have to fit the components that you don't need. You don't have to fit connectors that you don't need. So in this particular case, it's for that 23 centimeter amp Jim that I'm taking a bit of time in getting into working state. But that's my PTT sorted out. It'll be fed with 28 volts. The buck converter will give me a 12 volt output for the fan, and also will be switched for transmit, and doesn't actually need to do anything on receive for that particular one. So basically just keeping the standard of PTT is ground for transmit, and I can configure that particular board to do what I want. So it saves hacking up a bit of aero board and customizing a circuit each time. So hopefully fewer mistakes and faster in doing all that. And Martin, and what you were saying about processors and the rest, I think it probably won't show, I guess, the resolution. I'm running about 20% CPU and up to about 10% on the GPU with a Pentium i7 that I've had for quite a number of years, but it was specified to be fairly fast at the time. And in fact, my other rig is a Ryzen 9, which is pretty good. I saw a justification when the Ryzen 7 died, or more to the point the motherboard died, so I replaced it with a Ryzen 9, and I'm extremely pleased. It's got more oomph than I'm ever going to use. So that's enough waffle from me. I think it's round to Colin G for KLB with the group. This is GI4DOH.
Oh dear, the best laid plans and all that, isn't it? Apologies for that. I've had that a couple of times happen to me, but not to worry. We're on now. Apologies for the delay. Was this I've had to reconfigure everything from SQ, and I thought I'd checked everything, but there was one small bit missing. Anyway, we've quickly discovered it. Okay then, so what have I got to show today? I've got something on the bench there actually, and I have set up a camera app. It's on the same input as this as this one I'm using. I've got some experimental extension leads to try and reach the other side of the shack. So if I shove this HDMI in there, so what we'll do, this will only be a quick demo, because otherwise, no, not a test card. Let's try. Oh dear. So I'll just unplug that camera, and it's about 6 inches too short, as you'd expect. But with any luck, we'll be able to go over there to the bench and see what we've been playing up this week, and hopefully this headset will also join me on the other side of the shack. So let's give that a go. Don't worry about that. We're getting there. It's very professional, this, isn't it? Really, very professional. Okay, there we go. There we are. This is a bit of a test, really. Right, I'm going to manoeuvre myself over here so I can get behind the camera and have a look. Right, so what on earth is being shown here? This is a sequencer. We're calling it the MacGuffin project, and it's to utilise the new band switching on a Portsdown 4. That's a Portsdown 4. It's got one of the new interface cards on the back of it to give the outputs, and the business end of it is there's some hex switches and other bits for other things. I'm not going to tell you all about it at the minute, but the business end is this Arduino Nano, which is doing all the controlling. Then we've got at the back there I2C out to the various parts, LCD for example there, LCD, there it is, that's on the I2C, as are the GPIO expander cards, which in this particular version, and there are other versions, have got 3. So that's the GPIO extender. Those two are connected to relay boards, which are just eBay relay boards, and you might be able to see if I come forward, you might see what I've marked them up as. So, actually that'll be easier there. The left hand side is PA push to talk, and the right hand side is PA power. So that's for that's for 8 bands on there, and this side is using receive. Again, the same bands. That's the receive select. See, at the minute it's set to 146. Up there, it looks like it's on 70, but it's on 146. So that's there, and we can have a quick demo. If I just this board actually can be, the relays I'm using, I can actually swap it out with another device. I put the boards away now. There's the actual boards will be a little bit bigger than this, because they will have in there a relay driver on it for each one, which is an optional extra. And in this instance, it will save me having the second relay board. This one is spare at the moment. So if I can get rid of this one, I only need one relay board for my 8-channel version. And the other ones that are being switched, I'm using for transmit receive. I'm using some of these boards here. They're using the relay that we all know about, but that's oh hang on, there we are. I've just shorted something out doing that. So hopefully it'll work still. So what I'm going to do now is come over here and press TX on here. There we are, TX on, and we'll see then the relays. The timing is deliberately slower so that you can see the sequence, assuming I haven't just blown it up. There we go. So that was PA power came on, push to torque came on. I said the sequence is deliberately slow. And likewise we go, say we want to change to another band. Stop that transmission in a minute. Frequency change to 1249, say. The relay immediately goes, press the button there, and it tells you what's going on the screen. So there we are. That's it. When the push to talk came on, and so did the relays, obviously. There they are. Likewise, if you want to, you can use other stuff as well. If you want to have a transverter, say 29 megahertz, and then it will obviously do the business there. Or if you want, the other one I use is 50 megs. Then obviously that switches too. That's probably enough. You'll also see this one. If I just go back, hang on, you can't see. Can you see what I'm doing? No, you can't. Where's it gone? There we are. Oh, there we are. Go back to direct. There we are. Cancel. I hit it twice then, and we go to. Actually, it's on there, isn't it? 12 foot. That's the 23 SEMS. Then no, it's not that one. It's not one that's connected to the relay. I think that relay is actually on the. Well, you can see it won't come on. That relay is on the 146, I think. And so we'll look down here for that. Press TX, and then you'll see the normal sequence happen. I say it's deliberately slowed right down. And you've got a bit of a delay anyway on there. So there we are. Those come on, and you should see. Well, that was on 146. Hope I haven't killed that one. Was it on 23? Let me just check. Hang on. Getting myself in a twist here demonstrating it. Let me just check that. If I remember which one it was. Remember which one it was on. I think I did have it on 146. There we go. Oh yeah, oh it is on that one. Yeah, thank goodness I hadn't killed it. And so you'll see then this receive transmit relay is activated by the green LED as well. So there we go. That's about it, I think, for that. This the necessary for this will be available. We'll be pushing out. Let me go back to the other side. We'll be pushing out the necessary paperwork for viewing by a few people just to critique it. So let's find a camera. There we are. Yeah, I'll swap the camera over when I'm on the break, I think. There we go. Well, hopefully that all worked. I didn't have any way of monitoring that. I just took a chance. So that'll do for me. And then John's going to try a live demo, I think. So never do a live demo on here. Never do a live demo. That's what they keep telling me, and we never learn, do we, John? So G7JTT to take it. G4KLB.
It works. Have I got audio? Yeah, right, cool. Right, apologies for the chicken, that's just something from earlier for off of SQ. In the background, you can see my 3D. Better no sound from me now. You can see the 3D scanner, which is scanning 143.049 to give a 1 kilohertz tone or thereabouts. There's been loads all the time. I haven't had to think. Well, even while the thing didn't work earlier, there were loads coming through. But of course, there won't be any now, will there? But I have a trick up my sleeve. If I move that across, you will see that was a particularly nice one. Look at that. I don't know if that was a singular event or several events that all happened at the same time, but that was probably the best I've received so far. As I say, it's not going to do it live. I know it's not. So anyway, that's what I've been playing with. It's just something silly. It's more a case of trying to learn. Is that audio playing up again? It's more a case of trying to learn more about Spectrum Labs. So it's a bit of a pointless exercise, really, because what I should be doing is going on, is it MSK144, whatever, and using that. But yeah, it's just really for me to be able to learn. I'm going to try one last thing to see if this works, which has been causing me the issues most of the day. That's HDMI capture off of my desktop nub thing, whatever you call it, that's actually doing some receiving at the moment of the VLF frequencies. I turn some of these things off. You'll probably be able to see that a bit better. We won't want that one off, don't we? Right. This is my biggest problem. All this lot down here. That's all 50 hertz and harmonics. Unless you live in the absolute middle of nowhere, you're not really going to get away from that. There's plenty of lightning about at the moment. There's some. It's actually quite interesting. I don't know if anybody knows the answer to this, but the lightning that you see, like that one just came through there. Some will go full spectrum. Others, as you say, just like small bits in the middle. And then there's another lot which is like a pulse. In fact, is that? No, it's not. So whereas that one's like a solid line, you'll get it's pulsed along there. But anyway, it's quite interesting to watch for a while. Then you go bored with it. My neighbours, or I don't know which one it is, but one of them's got some sort of security light or something. And when that switches on, you'll see 4 kilohertz, 8 kilohertz, 12 kilohertz, 16 kilohertz, etc., all the way up. Just completely gets knocked out. So the whole idea eventually is to be able to receive some of this stuff that's working on 8 kilohertz, 5 kilohertz, and now 2.9 kilohertz or 2.7 kilohertz, whatever it is. I know Rob's managed to receive it, but I just think I've got too much noise on my system. So maybe I'm going to be lucky one day to see something. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Oh, let's just go back to something. Let's for Mike, I assume you've looked on eBay and looked for the old CB amplifiers. Lots of those turn up on there that are dead, non-working, but they're usually quite nice cases. And of course, you've got all the buttons and bits and pieces, and you've got some fantastic RF connectors on the back, of course. So they can normally be picked up fairly cheaply when they're available, obviously. So that might be another thing. Right, with that, I should pass it round to Nick, G4NKV. Hopefully everything is okay, G7JTT.
having some sort of problems. So, are we there? Any? Good. We're working. Right. Been a while since I've been on. I've had some most peculiar problems with the amplifier for Oscar. If I can just find the pictures. What was happening when I powered up the amplifier, which is outside, the main circuit breaker would trip. I thought it was water at first. Obviously it turned out it wasn't. If I can just find the correct image, it should be coming up. There we go. Right, there's the amplifier that's outside. It was tripping. Every time I powered it up, it tripped the main circuit breaker. How it powers up is there's a 12-volt relay inside, which, when operated, when energized, puts on the mains supplying to the power supplies in there. There's the picture of it. The relay there on the left. What it eventually worked out to be was I was switching both live and neutral. My theory is that the live was making before the neutral and causing a bit of a surge on the earth leakage circuit breaker. So the neutral is now linked out, and hopefully we've cured all that sort of problem now. So no more tripping, at least no more tripping for a while. Anyway, there you go. Last night I thought I'd try and come on again, and had an issue with the Portsdown 2020. What happened was it would not connect to the network for some reason. I was powering it off on several times. I even removed it from the router listing because I'd set it as a fixed IP address and I redid it. Still didn't work. I tried it a few more times and then it started working, and today it's working. So for some reason the Pi would not recognise, would not go on the network, and we've got that back now, hopefully, and we're back and working. Other things, I've been trying to get some little preamplifiers for 2 meters and 77s built and put up on the mast. They're on now, not fully tested, so I've got that to sort out. But while I was up there, I've come to the conclusion that the 50-year-old AR40 rotator is well past it. I know it was failing a while ago because about 4 or 5 years ago I bought a new rotator. Not got round to putting it up, but definitely got to do it now because that rotator isn't long for this world. So I've got things there to do. Not much to do at nights here now. I don't know if you've heard that the Billsdale TV transmitter got, some say, struck by lightning, and there was a fire. No TV around this area, and I've got a feeling it could be a while before we get any. I'm using some Bluetooth speakers, little earbuds, and I'm just getting messages in my ears saying battery is low. So there you go. I think it's going to be just pass back to Dave now, so we'll pass it back.
G4NKV, G8GKQ and BATC Net. Okay, Nick. Yeah, Billsdale looked quite a sight. Yeah, I wonder if they haven't got quite the urgency because they reckon more people watch iPlayer, watch internet channels. And that power problem is a strange one. It shouldn't really make any difference whether neutral or live goes first unless there is a large amount of capacitance there. But good to see you back on. John, Meteor Scatter looks good. Brian G4NNS, the other side of Andover, is working on a 50 megs meteor scatter beacon. Because there are a couple at 49.97, I think, but working on a UK 50 megs one, and I've taken a look at that a couple of times, but his ground direct signal is a bit too strong for me to get meteor pings. Colin, the MacGuffin looks good. That's incredible. I've done some related work today. Hang on. Dives out of shot, comes back in shot with this device. This is the original Portsdown demo / development rig. Way down in the guts there's still a filter modulator board and a Raspberry Pi 3. You can just see it at top left of the box there. But on the back there is now a Raspberry Pi 4 and a 7-inch screen, so it is now the Raspberry Pi Portsdown 4 demo. But on the side here is a 25-way D-type, which I have brought out a number of the Raspberry Pi pins to, and that enables me to connect to the power meter and the noise head. And while I was at it, now that we've got 4 lines for band, up at the top here, 4 of those 6 LEDs indicate the binary code for the band that's selected, so I can continue to make sure that works during updates. So the 25-way D-type activity was complemented by making up some cables, so that can go into the switch noise source or a MCP 3W2 power detector, or A to D with a power detector. So a bit of hardware work there. Dave, the power supplies we were talking about with these fellas. Mine isn't as neatly modified as Mike's because I couldn't. Mine's mechanically and electrically different from Mike's. It's still got power poles on it, but it's the same spec, but it's made by Artisan. So same mechanical spec, but made by Artisan. I don't know whether that will come out. Yes, it will, just about. And I've left mine at 27.2 volts. But useful to have around. Mike, for Cat21, I can bring along a GPS-locked 10368.1 frequency reference. If we can arrange something to look at the 600 odd megs that comes out of the LNB, we can then set those LNBs accurately. I'll be bringing one with me, but I've got a GPS locked 10368.1 reference which I will bring. And the opening time is the museum does not open till 10 o'clock, so nobody apart from those who are setting up will get in before 10. And we're saying roughly a start time of 10:30. I'm not sure there is much junk to rush for, but so any time after 10 o'clock, but nothing before. Yeah, I reckon we could use, as you say, could use Lime SDR or something like that, an SDR console, to do the measurement of the 600 odd megs, as you say, Mike. New PC, Martin. Yes, I did the Windows update just before I came on air this evening, but I actually didn't have any issues with drivers, but I'm always worried I'm going to. And those PAs look very impressive, Jim. We perhaps need to have a chat about providing instructions for the users of them, because we've seen the odd user of those high power PAs inadvertently run too much power on the satellite, so I think that's one area we need to look at. On the Portsdown side this week, I've been working on getting different versions of the C920 working. we thought there were two versions of C920. There are actually at least three. Ken G4BVK lent me his C920, and I find it's a totally new version that I've never seen before. Anyway, there will be a release coming out, I hope in the next couple of days, which will work with all the C920s, and we'll do widescreen on the Lime with an easy cap, which was a bug I introduced in the last release. Other things I've been up to, contest scoring, trying to get the scoring done for the international contest. I've done Austria, Belgium and UK so far in one pot. I need to get the Dutch and the Italians and the French and the Germans in there. So that's slowly working my way through that. And I have downloaded the software for a new Ryde version. Tim downloaded the software this evening, and I'm just looking at what changes I need to make to the config file to test it. Clearly a few simple changes, and then there are going to be some more complex changes for the SSH console menu. But I am getting towards that, but I can't. My brain can't cope with doing ports down software and Ryde software at the same time. So I think that's enough from me. Let's quickly go around once again. So back to Jim. 7NTG and the group G8GKQ.
Right, let's make sure I've got sound before I mute this. Right, make sure I've got sound before I mute this. I have. Okay, yes. Right, okay. I'm just going to move the camera a little bit because I want to show you what I advise everybody to use when they use one of my big amplifiers. See if I can. That's about it. Yeah. You can see the port down on the right. Then my chain of amplifiers. High gain when driving a Wi-Fi amp, but I use the attenuator to actually set my level, and I advise who has one of my amps to use one of these and look at the wideband spectrum monitor and adjust the level so that it's about the same as the speaker signal. So yes, I do think of that, and I can only recommend, and if people don't take any notice, or that's a shame. I do actually tell everybody that's the best way to do it. Okay, yes, seriesing of those power supplies, they do have to be isolated. The DC end, not the mains AC end. That has to be left connected to ground, to the case of the unit. But the DC end has to be fully isolated. It involves taking a couple of wire links off and drilling out some captive nuts and replacing them with insulated screws and spacers. But it works very easily. Yeah, power supply. These are all different. Here's one I use. It's the same bit of kit, but it's completely different. And this one's made by Delta. Wait for my picture to unfreeze. This one's made by Delta Electronics, and it's also very highly recommended that you put a pair of fans on the back, a couple of small fans, because they get very hot without a fan, and it worries me that they're getting too hot. So there you go. Yes, I got a brand new PC a little while back and immediately removed everything off the hard drive and installed Linux Ubuntu, and I'm watching the wideband monitor now on it. This PC has Linux and it does everything I need. It works just as well as Windows, so and I lose all the problems I have with having to have security software. I haven't got any form of security software at all, and I've never had any problems with it. Nobody's managed to hack it. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to pass it round to Martin. So Martin, G4FKK from G7 in TG with the group.
Yeah, very good, Jim. G7 NTG. G4FKK. Let's put a camera on instead. Yes, all copied from everybody, apart from John the first time, but we know why now. And all very interesting as well. I've got loads of notes here. Yeah, Mike, it's interesting. Your 1/4 FEC, beautiful picture actually. And when I said the audio is not as good as usual, it's only a bit not as good as usual. It's perfectly good. But your picture was just freezing on my Winter Hill. It was okay on the mini tune, and evidently it was okay on the streamer. So why it should do that, I don't know. I have noticed the Winter Hill. I've got the latest 16 window version, although I'm only using 4 at the moment. I have noticed that does lock up on some signals. It seems to dislike if you haven't got too many null packets. I've noticed that on some signals, and clearly it wasn't happy with your 1/4. Probably not your 1/4, because everything else was perfectly happy with it. So anyway, that's interesting, and that could just be, so again, something missing from this this machine. Who knows? Yeah, heatsink boxes are very difficult to get hold of, I've found. I buy them, I look on eBay and try and find someone who's selling a Duff 2 meter amp or something. And in fact, if I use that camera, that looks, to all intents and purposes, like a Tono MR 150 watt amplifier. That is in fact my homemade 300 watt 2 meter amplifier in that box. And when that Tono arrived, it was absolutely ruined. So I didn't feel guilty about stripping the innards out. And this box down here, which says it's a Mirage, which was another, I think that was a 2 meter amplifier. That's now my 6 meter and 4 meter 300 watt amplifier. And very recently, yeah, the trouble is, Mike, because I see that you're saying that's what you do as well. I've got many more 2 meter amplifiers, and I just recently literally given a big old 70SEMS, the original 100 watt amplifier, which is in a huge heatsink box. I was told, well, it doesn't work for years, blah, blah, blah. And the trouble is, I have a quick look and think, oh, I could probably fix that. And then I do fix it, and then I haven't got the heart to rip all the bits out, because it's original and it's a classic, so useless. Oh, the other thing this is still work in progress. You won't be impressed with this, but so this is one of the 2 device amplifiers. So there's one of Jim's medium. There used to be the big heat sinks, Jim, but now it would appear they're the little ones. Jim's big heat sinks, and I've built a box around it, but you have to bend bits of aluminium and drill holes, so it's not quite as convenient as someone who's already done it. Yeah, you see, 100 watt 2 meter Benos, you can't rip that to bits, can you? That'd be terrible. What else was there? And thanks, Mike, for the comments on the picture. I'm glad that's better. So it's still not perfect because this camera was given to me by a tech org in BBC local radio. Said, "Oh, you could probably use that," and it's quite good at some focusing. But again, it doesn't seem to like. None of them seem to like focusing on me, which is, I'd say, fair enough. Really, I wouldn't if I was a camera either. Richard, yeah, the all singing, all dancing, push to talk. Yeah, I've got. I still use a thing I built when I was still at school, which has got a great. Well, we've got two great big relays in, and any number of inputs, all diode matrixed up, so you can any rig can be told to switch that on. It's HF really, but I do use it for VHF as well, and it's a good idea, very useful. Yeah, my old PC, Richard, was I bought it refurbished, I think from Amazon. It was an i5, well, it still is because I still use it, and it was an office machine originally, and it's really good as an office machine. But it was struggling a bit with digital telly. The new one's an i7 generation 11 or something. Anyway, it's very, very quick at the moment till they fill it full of more bloatware, I guess. Colin, yeah, I saw your test rig on SQ the other day, but I thought it was a very good live demo, actually, very brave, but I thought that worked rather well. And the MacGuffin looks like it's coming on well. And John, it's typical, isn't it? You turn you dekeyed, and then you got a ping from the meteors. I have done meteor scatter on 4 meters. It gets quite busy on 4 meters if you're lucky. And of course, it's quite easy now with all this new, whatever it is, MSK 144 or whatever it's called. But I still quite like trying CW on 4 meters. That's a lot trickier. And I wonder if you've seen any of the whistlers yet on the very low frequencies. Rob's seen a few, I know that. Nick, if you're still watching, excellent engineering from your amp, and the mains tripping is, yeah. Well, I suppose those switch mode power supplies probably take quite a kick anyway, don't they, when they first kick off? And yeah, I've still got about a 30-year-old rotator. I did buy a new one, and then the old one started working again, and it's still up there. The Billsdale fire was interesting. They did a feature on it on Radio 2 that day, I noticed. I was driving my wife's car, and she's tuned to Radio 2. They had a couple of old BBC engineers on talking about Emily Moore and all the stuff that's fallen over and caught fire over the years. It's quite interesting for a change. Oh, and yeah, Dave, you said the management of the BBC are busy saying, oh yeah, well it's not as much a problem as it used to be because everyone can watch iPlayer. The engineers that were ringing in, the current ones on this Radio 2 thing, were all saying, well, 80% of people still watch Billsdale in that area. So I'm a bit dubious about all this internet. I think if everyone was watching the iPlayer that they claim all at the same time, I think the BBC's network would fall over. And okay, about the meteor scatter beacons. I loved your original ports down, by the way. It's not quite a non sequitur, but my sister rang me the other day and said she'd bought a Bush TV22 from an auction up in Scotland for a £5, I think. So hopefully that's coming down here, not too distant future. And for some reason, when I saw the screen and the big chassis, I suddenly thought of a TV22. Wiring 25D type's a nightmare. Yeah, I think I've got a new version of the C920. This is it here on this side of the shack. but I don't know whether it's well, it's not a Mark 1, but whether it's a Mark 2 or a 3, I've no idea. And yeah, Jim, the power supplies. I think we've had 3 different versions now, haven't we, on the net? So it's a bit like the old wartime civilian receiver, which was built by I think about 23 or 25 different manufacturers during the war. And I think I've got pretty much one of each one up in my loft. So probably if anyone wants a wartime civilian receiver, I might be tempted. They're just the loft's about to fall down, I think. And Jim, yeah, I've got Ubuntu on my old machine as a virtual machine, and it must be something about me. I quite like PIC chips and Arduinos and things. I can do machine code programming and C, but there's something about Linux, not the programming of it, because that's all C anyway, but I just can't get my head around it. It seems to object to anything I type into it. So that's another steep learning curve for me. But I've got GNU Radio working on the Ubuntu thing, so I just need to... that's another steep learning curve for me. Right, that's probably enough for me, or more than enough. So round to you again, Mike, and cheerio to everybody. And nice to see everyone up this evening. G0MJW, G4FKK. Cheerio.
Okay, hopefully that'll lock up in a second. A little bit strong for Tim. Back on a sensible rate now. The video lockups are probably because I'm cheating a bit with some of the coding. I shouldn't be sending full HD in 333 kilosymbols 2/3, but I am. And I'm sending it at the wrong frame rate, which may upset some systems, and without very many iframes, which will probably upset the rest. So yes, I could probably improve things quite a bit actually, if I could get around to tweaking it all. But it's good enough. It's okay, I think, as long as I don't try and play Big Buck Bunny too much. Then everyone will be okay. So yeah, and actually talking about oops, sorry about that. Talking about various issues with the mast. It was very interesting to see that. I thought that was a replay of the one that caught fire a few years ago when I first saw it. I didn't realise it was actually live, but it looks like it might be quite expensive, because as far as I can see from the reports, there was a fire in the building, but there seems to have been a fire in the mast as well, unless it was just sucking up the smoke like a chimney somehow. And if there was a fire in the mast, then once it gets going, it'll go all the way up the cables, all the way to the top, and they'll all be written off. The mast will probably be written off. The whole thing will fall down. So hence the exclusion zone. Hope not, but that's how things go. Yep, still upsetting your Winter Hill. Right, it's not upsetting my Winter Hill though. My Winter Hill's fine. So that might be something to do with your Winter Hill, or your version of VLC. Was there anything else? No, I don't think so. Quite a lot of interesting comments from various people, so all good to see. And I'll keep looking for those heatsink boxes. I think I've got 8 BNOS linear amplifiers which I've modified. Some of them were commercial ones and some of them were amateur ones, and some of them aren't modified. So the 70 SEMS one I got turned out to be a useful 100 watt amplifier, so I'm using that. And the 180 watt 2 meter one that wasn't supposed to work, that worked fine. So that's working. But the other ones have been made into respectively a 2.3 gigahertz linear, a 70 SEMS low power but linear, so it needs a big heatsink. My 23 SEMS 100 watt linear, and my 2 meter and 4 meter RD module linears as well. They're all in those BNOS amplifier cases of various different sizes. Very great, very good things, but they seem to have dried up at the moment. The only other thing I was going to show was the camera again. So let me just go back to that. Oops, that's the wrong one. There we go. So I'm just getting together some of the bits. I just remembered actually that you do need to turn the thing on, don't you? You need to bias it. So it needs a bias T to power the LNB, and it needs the connection to the, is it the red port or the green port, one or the other, from the box. So it needs those. And then we need to attach something to the IF. So we can either take the 25 megahertz out of the box, where you can then compare the 25 megahertz with the GPS, or we can use Dave's calibrated 10 gigahertz source and take that out at 600 megahertz and receive that with a Lime or a Pluto, assuming that's been calibrated. That would work as well. That might be the easiest way to do it, so perhaps that's what we should do. So I'll just put together the parts and put them in a box so that I've got them handy, because of course I would have forgotten, for example, the bias T, or I would have forgotten some other things. And I've just taken the lid off the box so you can see inside it for a moment. Right, that's it. So 7-3 everyone. Hope to see everyone in a week and a bit's time who can turn up to the in-place meeting. But otherwise 7-3, and yes, catch you all next time. So with that, who do I pass it to? Richard, I think, isn't it? Yeah, GI4DOH. Over to you, G0MJW.
G0MJW with the group GI4DOH, and go back over to this camera. That if I want to use the other one, I really need to get a monitor behind it or something like that, so I can at least look at the camera. So yeah, a number of things there. I don't think necessarily in order, but the idea, Martin, that you could take a DUF amplifier and use it as a heatsink. Here is a 2-meter linear amplifier that I was almost given at a rally some years ago, and it sort of works, but it goes into self-oscillation, and just about every component has a group of, I think, 3 disc ceramics with the wires twisted together, so it's no doubt a spread of values to decouple in sort of right across the frequency range. So I assume there's NAF decoupling somewhere, and just mechanically the idea of trying to replace each of those clumps of capacitors on a just scattered basis I'm unlikely to pin it down to a single component by component testing. It's just not worth the effort, and what would I do with a 2-meter linear amplifier anyway? So you've reminded me that I do have that, and also, Martin, what you were saying about CW and 4 meters. I was actually quite pleased the other night, because I've got the 3-meter 70 centimeter Yagi on the pole where my 10-meter Muxin normally is, in the 70 centimeter UK ACs. I had 3 QSOs, but one of them was actually CW, and I don't think I've had a CW QSO on 70 centimeters since around 1979, 1980 with Oscar 7, which was the only time in my life I ever dabbled with 70 centimeters before I took an interest in DATV. And the other thing is I have an i5 laptop. I replaced the hard drive with a solid state drive, and it really breathed new life into it. And yes, it won't do vast amounts of number crunching, but it's certainly fit for anything I want to do with it these days, including an ever expanding operating system. I then going back to Colin with the MacGuffin. That looks like quite an intricate piece of kit. Just go back to the other camera for a minute while I think about it. The old original Portstein that I slaved over as so many of us did, and went to all the effort of. I only had the 4-channel. They've done switching board on it, and separate LEDs for each of the bands. But each of the bands also had its own low pass filter, and looking at this camera now. So lots of effort went into that, and I never use it. Did check that I had the latest software earlier, but the latest port sign sitting on top was a build behind. So while we've all been talking on the net, that's updated itself to the latest, and I must get using it. Still, this determination to get out portable. And Nick, your issue with the battery and the earbuds. I always put this on charge after the Thursday night net, but I also try and put it on charge again before the start of the net, just in case. I don't trust these things. And well, as John on the meteor scatter, it's years ago in the days of low-band TV stations, I used to detect meteor pings with low-band transmitters, one in Iceland, one in Portugal, one in France, and there were various Ukraine and places like that. I used to have I think it was ICOM PCR 1000 receivers that I continually monitored these stations and recorded the meteor pings, and all the rest kept me occupied. And Jim, Linux as an operating system. Yes, I've an old tablet which outgrew the Windows operating system, and it actually has a bit of life even these days with Linux, because it's not been asked to do lots of things that it doesn't need to do. So I think that's about. Also Martin, what you were saying about the Winter Hill. I find the Winter Hill is a bit more fussy at times than the Ryde is. I've got both here, and sometimes you're getting a better picture than on the Ryde than the Winter Hill. Although they're both giving me the same error rates and all the rest. Sometimes videos not 100% on the Winter Hill, whereas it is on the Ryde, but only on very marginal signals. So that's it for me for tonight. Wish you all a very good evening. Should be on next Thursday, but hopefully see some of you at Cap 21 as well. So pass it round to Colin, G4KLB with the BATC group. This is GI4DOH. Good night all.
Okay, thanks a lot, Richard. That was excellent. There we are. Just check I've got some sound. There we go. Right. Okay, Richard. Yeah, all right. Okay, on the old ports down. Yeah, I still use that portable for until very, very recently, until that one I built, which is also already out of date actually, got installed in the van. I've been using that one, and it's been extremely reliable. That's only got 4 bands as well, but that's all there was at the time. So the new one's got 8. so there we are. But and as for PAs and such like, well, I have got this nestled up just up here. So yeah, but that is actually still working. So I can't rob it, unfortunately. Yeah, I use 2 meters SSB to talk to the French. They seem to favour that way of doing things. So probably because they're a bit more spread out, I guess. But they like to listen on. They like to be on 2 meters SSB. That's their main sort of ATV talkback, I think. Well, it appears to be the case to me anyway. That's where I find them anyway. So very good. So I'm pleased now that I've actually bought a new rig not that long ago for something that's actually on frequency on 2 meters. I've had awful trouble. I realigned a 290, which was better, but still there seemed to be some discrepancy between the receive and transmit, which doesn't seem possible if you look at the circuit. But there was definitely some discrepancy somewhere. But anyway, but we should be fine now with the new radio. There we are. Okay, listening for pings. Okay, they're all looking for meters. I might go outside and actually have a look. And then just briefly on the McGuffin project, which is all I've done this week really. Over there, people were talking about relays. The round relay here. Let's have a what you spotted. What you spotted was this one. He's just tucked out the way because he's a fairly dear one. That's what you want really, is an 8-way for this one. This system will do up to 16 if you're that keen. You can have up to 16 transmit, receives, and all the rest of it. See, so these little ones here with the expensive relays, they change over between transmit, and then the main bit is done on here. And for transmit, I am going to use an 8-band RF switch from a port stand for that, because I don't see why not. But I could equally use another one of these. These are available from Mauser still. They are still available from Mauser, and they are £1,000 each. So that's new. You can buy them new. No one's going to do that in their right mind, are they? But you can get others. These ones still go for a few quid, mind. Yeah, if you're in Germany, you'll be lucky because you can get them a little bit better. But you can get other ones. You can get them. You don't have to use 8. You can use a combination, but you obviously have to have another relay in between. But there are, for example, this exact type, although has only got 6 outputs and is 28 volts, but that makes no difference on this system. Can be had for £10 in America. Yeah, not many of those left. There's about 4 left. So that's depending how many bands you want to run and how you want to organise it. But you can use, people will use what they've got in the main, or look for other. So there are other types. So I won't dwell any further on that. I put this up this way because I don't want to rest it on. want to rest it on the electronics. So there we are. That's all. I don't need to demo any more of that really. So let's hop back over here. Time is short really today, so quite a good number on, which is excellent. No, we don't want that one. We want this one. Oh dear, oh dear. Oh yeah. Well, exactly. You've got to shop around for that type of thing, but yeah, it depends how many bands you want. The basic system comes more or less configured, depending whether you need to invert something or not. For an 8-band system, it'll work straight away, but it's completely configurable in the top half of the sketch. Don't go below the line that says, user modifications end here. So you've only got, and there is a spreadsheet to fill in the things you want. And anyway, more on that later on. But we're nearly done with it. I've just got another set of boards to turn up. Well, actually, I haven't sent for them yet. We had a bit of a change of plan. We've had several modifications. I'm on version 3 of some boards. But chuffed to bits with it. Absolutely chuffed to bits. All the ports down bits work. Good idea, Dave, having the LEDs light up, because I'd considered doing something similar myself when I was testing to see I'd got the right band bits. But say, look on the wiki. I've just lost the sheet of paper now. But if you look on the wiki, you'll find a page with all the new band bits, etc. It's in there somewhere. I won't bother trying to find it now. Okay, that's enough for me because I think it's getting a bit late now. So other stations signed, so I think it's back to Dave. I think. So I think that's enough for me. G4KLB.
Working. Assume it's working. Right. Okay. That's interesting. I don't bother switching the Philippe's software off or turn the port stand off. So it's on TX all the time. So it's probably been half an hour or so between. I'm guessing there's some sort of buffer underrun somewhere or whatever. So the old network lights still flicker away. So I don't quite know what that is. I have to do some more tests on that. Anyway, it's working. Just switched over to 2 meters. I've still got all my HF aerials down at the moment. When we had those thunderstorms a few weeks back, I took the aerials down and I haven't put them back up again yet. So I can't do 6 meters, 2 meters and 70 is all I can do. And nothing occurred yet on 3 meters. So as always, in between the various different overs, these are some of the pings that I've had. So it's interesting when you look at these, and again, I don't know the science behind it, but most of them seem to be linear in the sense that they go from on the one frequency and just go, as time goes on, it goes further down, etc. The others seem to spread across. There's an example there. That one's spread across and then gone up again, if that makes sense. So it's almost formed like a T. So that was a particularly strong one. I think there's one in a minute that comes up. That one, for example. See, that's a cross frequency. So that's actually like a is it Doppler effect, whatever. But anyway, I guess someone will know what that means. I just like it's quite pretty to see the way they come up and stuff. And they do make quite nice noises as well. So anyway, right, with that, round to you, Dave, and I better shut up. Actually, I just realised the missus is in bed. So round to you, G8 GKQ in the group, G7 JTT.
G7 JTT. And the group G8 GKQ. Okay. Yeah, the meteor scatter pings, I think some of it, the frequency variation is if there's Doppler on them, but it's quite an interesting aspect of it. So I think we're going to see a bit more of that, and now that software is better at visualizing them. And some of the work that Brian is doing is trying to tie up the radio responses with the visual observations, because there's a whole group of astronomers who visually look for these things and record them. So there's some work going on there. I know it's dangerous to say this, but I've had my F1 EJP script running since 6 o'clock this evening. with no issues at all. But I think it depends on how much buffer you have and your own processor and everything. I did have a look at my laptop to see what was going on. CPU is down about 8%, but the GPU is up at about 70%. About half of that is FFmpeg, and the other half is OBS. But really pleased with that. Okay, I'm not going to hold it any longer. I'll shut the net off, but I will be good to see a final perhaps from Rob M0DTS if you're set up to transmit, Rob, and you can tell us what nothingness you've been doing. But net as usual next Thursday, and then look forward to seeing everybody on Saturday week. G8GKQ closing the BATC net. Good night all.